Happy Friday, everybody. Friday starts the weekend, and we are here to make your weekend a profitable one through the props betting market. I am Andy Lang from WagerTalk.com. We have a great show, and you are going to want to stick around. We are going to break down 3-player props. Actually, we're going to do 4-player props, but it's 3 offensive players and 1 defensive player. This is certainly going to help you on your bets for the season in the NFL and maybe for week 1. So we're going to get into that. And, of course, you're going to want to stick around. Andrew has an incredible best bet for us at a great price. That is going to be at the end of the show. We got an action-packed show. And guys, don't forget, if you want to use the promo code BIRTHDAY9, we're celebrating Wager Talk's 9th birthday. That's going to take 50% off daily packages over $9. So use the promo code BIRTHDAY9, and you can get myself and Andrew and Matt's daily packages. Gentlemen, my fellow prop masters, Andrew McGinnis from WagerTalk.com and Matt Josephs from SportsMemo.com. No time to waste. We're going to get right into it. Matt, I'm going to come to you first. The first guy we're going to talk about is Desmond Ridder from the Falcons, but your team and my team played last week. So was there anything that you can take away real quick from the Eagles' performance? Because I thought we learned a lot more about the Colts than the Eagles, but Eagles and Colts preseason game. Anything that you took away from that game? Over rushing, over interceptions. Going to be a cash cow for. I mean, listen. Matt, my big takeaway was Anthony Richardson is so inaccurate. And a lot of them are on the short passes. He had an 8-yard pass that he blew through the receiver's hand, went over his head. He missed a terrible long pass to Pittman where Pittman was completely blank and it had no business though. His inaccuracy is a massive problem, and I think the two kind of go hand in hand. That he absolutely is going to take off running. Let me ask you this: what do you think the books are going to give us week 1? Anthony Richardson rushing total. Like, what do you think we're going to get? Because I got to be honest, Matt, if it's less than 50 yards, I think that's a play on the over.
I gotta
Yeah, I
say,
agree.
Andy, whatever it is in week 1, that number will not be there in week 2, and whatever the number
No.
is in week 2, that number will not be there in week 3. So this is one of those like Jalen Hurd type of things, Justin Field type of things, where you got to bet it early, and that number might get too big, and by week 5, like you don't want to bet it anymore.
I agree completely. I think the window might be small because I know the books got torched on Justin Fields last year. They couldn't put that number high enough, and they kept like slowly putting it up, and it was just you couldn't do it. I got to imagine they're not going to take that approach this year. Like if they put it, Matt, like you said, at 35 and he rushes for 70, that number is going to be over 50 by week 2. So, I'm with you that Richardson rushing could be a gem to start the season, and then all of a sudden the number gets too inflated. So, let's get to our first NFL future, and it's a player prop. We're looking at Desmond Ridder, and we're looking at his passing total. Matt, over or under 2,600 and a half yards. I feel like the Falcons are kind of weirdly a polarizing team. I feel like some people are picking them to do well in this division that's got a lot of questions. Of course, you've got Bijan Robinson. People are talking about the coach and does he not like Kyle Pitts? This team also has a lot of fantasy football talk around them. What do you do with Bijan? What do you do with Kyle Pitts and Drake London? But let's talk Desmond Ridder because he's going to be the engine. Is it going to be a sputtering engine or is it going to be an awesome engine, Matt? What do you like over under 2,600 and a half passing yards for the season?
So I think this is a guy that you want to make sure to get the best number for. 2,500 is the number for FanDuel, just in case you are interested in either the over or the under here. You look at last year, and I feel like they're going to be somewhat the same team. And Desmond Ridder he only had 708 yards passing. And then you look at Mariota, 2,219 yards passing, and that was in 13 games. I feel like, and it's funny because I'm the one who came up with this, this is a guy that I want nothing to do with, because I feel like in games that he's supposed to pass, they're still not going to pass because they didn't last year with Marcus Mariota, who was a veteran. Now, I know that the Falcons want to see what they have in Desmond Ridder because much like the Commanders and much like several other teams that have second-year guys starting, you want to know if you have a quarterback or if you're going to be in the Caleb Williams, Drake May sweepstakes. So I feel like they're going to give him some opportunities here. I would lean under. I just don't trust the Falcons as a passing team. Taylor Heineke is not a bad backup. And let's say the Falcons are in it to win the division and they don't like what they see from Ridder. They could yank him for Taylor Heineke and have him be the starter. Heineke's already been a starter in the NFL. So I lean to the under mostly because I don't think Ridder's going to start all 17 games this season.
Andrew, coming to you. Desmond Ridder, 2,600 and a half passing yards. Does he get there? Or does he come in under?
Yeah, obviously a smaller sample size last year, 177 passing yards per game when he was in there. When I look at this, though, I look at a guy that I think has a very long leash. He has an opportunity to make mistakes. I feel like the coaching staff, every quote that I've read, everything I see, I don't think he will get yanked early in the season. And I don't think he'll really get yanked unless something goes drastically wrong. He likes to move on his feet quite a bit, escape the pocket and make plays that way. But as Matt stated, I mean, they do like to run the ball in times they probably shouldn't. But if they throw the ball a lot, they utilize their weapons. I actually think he could get over this number because, like I said, it seems to me like everything I've read, this guy being, getting a chance last year to kind of watch things and look over his shoulder. I feel like he's ready and the team is ready for him to be that next guy. So with that being said, it is kind of a bigger number, but we didn't get to see a full sample size from him, but it sounds to me like the team is his to run with. So lean to the over for me in this one.
All right. Matt likes the under. Andrew likes the over. I'm the official tiebreaker. I'm going to surprise everybody, and I like the over in this one. This is only 153 yards a game, and he's not a rushing quarterback like Justin Fields or Anthony Richardson like we talked about. This is not a guy that's going to tuck the ball and run 10, 12 times a game and get 80, 90, 100 yards. He averaged 28 pass attempts in 4 games last year. And if you guys have listened to the show, you know me, I like unders on these season totals. I think the schedule works out really well for him. This is kind of the tipping point for me for why I think he can go over. We look at the schedule. It's a good schedule. There could be some shootouts involved. He starts the year Carolina, Green Bay, Detroit, Jacksonville, Houston, Washington, Tampa. The Tennessee game could be lower scoring, but then Minnesota and Arizona. So I think there could be some situations where these games are close. Ridder has to throw at the end of the game or maybe at the end of the half. And then the other thing that I really like is they have their bye week in week 11, and he only has 2 potential cold weather games. He plays at the New York Jets on December 3rd and at Bears on December 31st. That game's going to be negative 10 degrees with 30-mile-an-hour winds coming off the lake. That's just going to be miserable. But other than that, in the winter months, they plays home to New Orleans, plays home to Tampa, at Carolina, plays home to the Colts, and then the last game of the year is indoors at New Orleans. So I actually think the schedule kind of works out weirdly well for him. Of course, we're banking on him playing all of the games. And I'm with Andrew that I think he does have a longer leash. I think they need to know exactly what they have. If it's not this year, then what are you waiting for? So I think they give him the full year. If he escapes injury, I have a slight lean to the over in this one. So Matt likes the under. Andrew and I slight leans to the over. Rashaad Penny, we're going to talk about next. So Matt, you probably know more about what's going on with this backfield. Rashaad Penny's over-under for rushing yards is 600 and a half. Matt, is this one of these cases where we don't know if Rashaad Penny is going to even make the team? Yet that being said, in week 4, he could be the number 1 back. depending on how it shakes out. So I guess tell us if you know anything, if you have any inside local scoop, and what do you think about Rashaad Penny, 600.5 rushing yards?
So also, once again, just to kind of tell everybody, 575.5 is the number at Caesars. It's 600.5 elsewhere. So, and I think once again, much like Ritter, the 25-yard difference could come into play here. So I actually thought entering last night, there was a chance they were going to cut Penny and keep Trey Sermon. But I think last night kind of told me by Trey Sermon getting, 150 carries last night, that unfortunately Trey Sermon's the one who's going to go. But I really think Penny is third in the depth chart, maybe even fourth. I mean, I think if you can guess, I think Kenny Gainwell's the number one. I think Swift is the third down guy. I think Boston Scott's the guy they use against the Giants for the anytime touchdown value because he only scores against the Giants, it feels like. And then I think Penny is the fourth guy. But as you just said, Andy, last year there were games where the third running back got a lot of run. And there were games last year where the fourth running back got a lot of run. And you look last year, Sanders had 1,269 yards. Gainwell had 240, Scott had 217, Trey Sermon had 19, and I think there's going to be more shootouts this year. The problem is if you take a decision here and he gets cut and he goes somewhere else, does your play get voided or do you still get to keep your play? Because if Penny gets cut, he's going to go somewhere else and he might get used somewhere else. There's still some jobs potentially for backups elsewhere. So I think there's a lot of complicating factors here when you look at this Rashaad Penny bet. I'm going to look at the under here. I just think he's third in the depth chart. I think he might even be fourth behind Boston Scott. I think that he's a nice luxury to have, and maybe at some point they even potentially trade him during the close to the deadline to get a player they need in a different position. But I think every yard is crucial here. So I like the under here for Penny. I think he's third on the depth chart. And I'll ask you guys this. I mean, do you think that if he gets cut, he gets somewhere else and he becomes a number one somewhere else? Or is he a number two no matter where he goes if he gets let go?
Andrew, what do you think? Rashaad Penny, does he have a place on another team? Is the Eagles his resting place? Or what do you think about this total, 600.5 yards?
I think it's hard enough to handicap these when you know the team they're on. So getting asked a question like that is a little bit tough, not knowing where somebody is. But I do agree that I think that no matter where he goes, he's not going to be the main guy. Having said that, look, there's so many different ways you could look at this. And I feel like the way that I really like what Matt said there about the fact that last year, even with so many mouths to feed, there were still so many players that were able to have success. One thing I found that I thought was pretty interesting, he ranked second amongst all running backs in rushing percentage that resulted in plays over 10 yards. So when he does break off for good plays and does get the ball, he's the kind of guy that's not just going for a few yards. He averaged more than 6 yards per carry. But to me, this is the exact opposite of what I was just talking about in our previous breakdown with opportunity. For me, when I'm betting these props and I want to bet an over, the big key for me is opportunity and, how many times will he be out there? Where will he fall in the depth chart? And I just think that in this case, there's still too many mouths to feed on this team. He would have to accelerate himself up in the depth chart a little bit, get consistent carries, and then constantly get those big plays I'm talking about that he ranked high in. But to me, when I'm doing this with you guys and we're breaking things down, if I have to build a case for somebody, if I have to say too many ifs, then it's an under bet for me. And looking at Rashaad Penny and looking at this Eagles team, even if they are involved in shootouts, I just think there's too many other mouths to feed. And this is a team that's great at the receiving position as well. So on top of all of that, I'll take the under here.
So, listen, Matt, if the Colts cannot trade Jonathan Taylor at this point, I really hope the Eagles aren't able to trade Rashaad Penny, because that just means we're the worst ever in trying to trade running backs here. Running backs rushed for 1,749 yards last year for the Eagles. Gainwell and Scott only rushed for 417. I don't know. Is Gainwell that guy? I feel like you have DeAndre Swift, who can do a little everything. He can run. He can catch passes. Gainwell can as well. We kind of know what Boston Scott's role is. I feel like Penny could be kind of the hammer, maybe. Like, if you're looking for a guy that just runs the ball, if they're up in the fourth quarter, maybe he's the guy. The biggest problem is he's only played 42 games in 5 years. He's just a massive injury risk. He's coming off of a broken leg. I think he's going to need some injuries to get real serious playing time. Slight lean to the under. But that being said, Matt, if Swift gets hurt and Penny all of a sudden starts a couple weeks, we've talked about this with a couple of other, with the Lions. If Jahmyr Gibbs misses any time, all of a sudden David Montgomery is like 100-yard and a touchdown per week back. So I feel like if Swift misses any time and Penny happens to be healthy, all of a sudden you could look at Penny having some real value. So I'm going to lean to the under as well, Matt. The reports don't seem that great, but if anything, it's just to stay away. There's no reason to invest money in this bet right now. There's plenty of other places to put your money. So I think we're all kind of leaning a little bit towards the under on Rashaad Penny. So we're going to get to a real polarizing player coming up. And guys, please leave a comment and let us know what you think of these. I don't know. Desmond Ritter, the chat room seems to have opinions on that. Let us know in the comment section what you like or don't like about some of these player props. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe if you like betting content like this and you love all these free plays. Matt, we're going to talk about Justin Jefferson, but college football starts this weekend. So tell everyone what you have up and where we can find you for this weekend. And then let's talk Justin Jefferson over under 1,400.5 receiving yards. Big number.
Yeah, it's week 0. There's 7 games. I'm tired of looking at these 7 games over and over and over again. As I posted on Twitter, I came up with about 10 different plays I wanted to play, and then I talked myself out of all of them. And now I have about 5 plays. So there will be something. I really want to pass, but I know people don't want to hear that. So there will be something up, but I'm just tired of seeing the same 7 games over and over again. Certainly, and there's a deal that has get week 0 for free, and you get week 1 as well. It's a 2-week thing. I'm going to definitely have a lot of stuff for week 1, but week 0 and I know you guys probably feel the same way. That first week of any sort of season when the lines have been up forever and you're just kind of staring at the same games and you're like, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? And then all sorts of stuff. So yeah, I'll have a play up for week 0, but usually week 1 is kind of my better week for college football. Justin Jefferson, look, I mean, it's so funny that this is the number when you look at what he is, because he's sailed over this thing. I actually think, and I'm looking up here, 1,350 on DraftKings, 1,399.5 on BetMGM, 1,400 on FanDuel and Caesar. So there is a little bit of a difference here. I mean, I don't know how you don't take the over. I don't know how you don't take the over here. I think the only thing that stops him is injury. If you want to instead, go look on your favorite sports book and see how much he's going to be to have the most receiving yards in the league. 4-1 on FanDuel, plus 550 on BetMGM, 6-1 on Caesars. I feel like that almost is the better bet here, because if he goes over the 1,400 yards, chances are he's going to have the most receiving yards in the league. So I don't see why you don't go over this. It's not, the Lions improved their secondary. The Packers have always had a good secondary, I feel like. The Bears' secondary is slightly better, but he still should torch everybody. And he plays in a dome half the year. I don't see any reason why not to go over here.
Yeah, Matt, it's funny you mentioned the week 0. I feel like I call these bored bets, where you're just bored, BORED, where you end up kind of bored. And you've looked at the same lines over and over and over, and then nothing's going on. You're like, yeah, I'll take a bet on this one. So, but I have a way for you to filter out your bets and for you to decide which bet. Only put up the winners for week 0. Oh, go through all your bets and just yeah. So that's all you have to do. That's free advice. So yeah, grab Matt's college football plays. There's nobody better at college football on the Wager Talking Sports Memo than Matt Josephs. Andrew, before we get to Justin Jefferson, tell everyone what you have up at WagerTalk.com and where we can find you at.
Well, Andy, it's actually a really good segue, because for me, I prefer what Matt was talking about there, like being, in season and reacting to some games versus like the very opening week of a sport where the lines have been up forever. And I find myself right now on an 8-2 CFL run, 13-5, 5% CFL run. And this happens every single year. Like, honestly, I feel like I should stop betting the first 5 weeks of the CFL year every season, because it feels like this is the time I get hot every single season. And I think it's because all the focus is on college football and NFL. Nobody's talking about CFL anymore. And this is where I can react and start making really sharp plays. So I do have a big play going this weekend in CFL action. Of course, that promo code birthday9 is still available to get 50% off. Celebrate Wager Talk's birthday, and some UFC action for tomorrow as well. So Also 3-0 in the NFL preseason. So I'll have 2 plays looking like, and if I add anything else, they'll be like 1% or 2%, if that. So feeling pretty good so far, Andy. I'm sticking to the promise I made myself with low volume over the last few weeks, and it's working out so far. So it's been a good couple weeks across all kinds of sports, and we'll try and keep things going. And we officially crossed the profitable line in the MLB 2 days ago, which is nothing crazy to celebrate because that's our job to be profitable. But I was pretty much hovering around 500 for what felt like 3 months. So we're moving in the right direction. As far as this player, look, I mean, I talked about building a case, and if you have to say so many ifs, then you go under. It's hard to build a case to go under in this one at all. I mean, the target share, number one in this, number one in that. Justin Jefferson, there's just so much good to say about him. But this is what I found that really just made me be like, how could anybody take the under? Since entering the league, ranks 3rd in catches, 1st in receiving yards, 9th in receiving touchdowns, and for your fantasy guys out there, 2nd in total PPR points. Not to mention that this Vikings team was 2nd in pass attempts last year. This is a team that passes the ball all the time. I don't think there's much competition for him as far as the targets he's going to get. Based on the draft picks that they made, I don't think anybody's stealing any targets from him this year. And realistically, I think they're going to be worse than last year, and that'll be a good thing for him because they're going to have to, come back in more games or run the ball potentially less late in games. This is the one I want to have my money on the over. Certainly don't want to bet the under here.
I can't really add a whole lot more to what you guys said. It's a sweep for us and our opinions. I mean, he had 1,809 yards last year. So if you're looking, can he get to 1,400.5 yards? Not only can he do that, but he could sustain an injury and go over. If he misses a couple games, if he misses 2 to 3 games, he can still get over. This guy had 10 games of over 100 yards. So in 10 games, at what, 11 or 1,200 yards he was able to get. So I'm with you guys that the injury, a big injury, is the only thing to derail him. But this is one of those where even a small injury, you might be sweating it at the end of the season. But I think the over is the absolutely only way that you could play Justin Jefferson. So I have a 5% play up, guys. It is, believe it or not, a cross-sport parlay. And I know parlays are seen as the devil of sports betting. Parlays work great for me. Plus 52 units in parlays this year. And that's available up at WagerTalk.com. You can use the promo code birthday9, get you 50% off. MLB is going great, 28-16 in the month of August. I'm really proud about that. And then UFC play of the day or play of the week is up. 1-0 in Dana White Contender Series, 1-0 in PFL. So we're already having a good MMA week. And the month of August is just fantastic, plus 36 units just in the month of August. And we are over the plus 92 unit mark for 2023. So all sports running really good. So very, very happy with everything. All right, we're going to a defensive player. Matt, you picked Aidan Hutchinson. Got a big number on the sack total. I'm interested. Jim is joining us this morning. So, Jim, I'd love your comments in the chat here. Aidan Hutchinson, over under 10.5 sacks. A, why did you pick this one and make us research this? And B, what did you come up with over under 10.5 sacks? And I guess the other thing is this season total good, or are we just looking at individual weeks for this one?
So I feel like I'm the kind of guy who just, lobs a grenade in the middle of something and just kind of walks away because I really have no opinion here. I just wanted to make you two squirm a little bit, but
not.
I mean, so if you do some of the research, and you were the guy who played some of the defensive props last year, and once again, I was hoping for Justin Tucker props, but nobody puts them out. Aidan Hutchinson, 9.5 sacks. Now, I don't know if any of the nerd stats have any close sacks, how many times he touched the quarterback and he didn't go down, how many times he blitzed and was really close and before the guy, stuff like that. But I mean, to me, Aidan Hutchinson's really good. He had 9.5 sacks in his rookie year. And you look, and here's the one thing that I'm considering when you look at something like this. The Lions are going to be in a lot of shootouts, which means that they're going to be in a lot of games where both teams are passing the ball, which gives him more opportunities. And I don't know if there's nerd stats on how many pass attempts like the Lions saw last year and how many they'll see this year. I kind of like the over. I think when you're in your second season and, you had such a lot of success in the first season, you move on a little bit and get better. And you look at some of these games like the Chiefs game. I wouldn't be surprised if he got a sack, although Mahomes is really tough to sack. Seahawks, Falcons, Packers, like there's some poor offensive lines, I feel like, on this stretch. The Panthers have a poor offensive line. He could get 2 sacks that game. So I lean the over here based off the fact that the Lions are going to see a lot of pass attempts, and he had 9.5 in his rookie year. So I feel like he's only going to improve, which means take the over here.
Andrew, Aidan Hutchinson, what do you think? 5% play on this prop for the future, or just a small lean?
I've been studying him all summer. This is what I did, on the plane to Vegas on the way back. This is the prop I had my eye on the most. Look, I don't have much here. 9.5 sacks, 2022, 15 quarterback hits, 52 total tackles. There's a lot to really read from the coaches and from him, but realistically, this is why I'm not a huge quote guy, because there's pretty much just so many cliches that you can see. You know what I mean? Like the coaching staff, I expect a great year from him this year. He's going to be even better than last year. Okay, sure. Every coach probably wants to see that and say that. As far as him, he said, my confidence right now is through the roof. Personally, I feel like I'm on a completely different level. Instinctually, explosiveness is just way different than last year. But really, I looked quickly at the schedule this morning, and I felt the exact same way that Matt felt, where there's just lots of opportunities in those games for him to be able to get to the quarterback. And if that's the case, I feel like he is going to be better than last year. And it sounds like he had a great year, surpassed expectations last year. And if that's the case, then I would look towards the over here. But I will not be looking towards it on my betting accounts because I am not betting this. So based on what I saw last year, though, and I guess the confidence from the coaching staff and from what I'm seeing from him, I would lean towards the over.
I love how Matt calls them nerd stats. Meanwhile, these are stats that we use for our livelihood, like every single day. All right, here's my official.
Agree, Andy. I do agree with Matt. Well, because he mentioned that to me on Twitter, and it's all the projections. Like this year, like you ever notice these days in betting, you see so many projections, like X goals, X this, X that. Well, you can't run simulations on sports. That's just not how life works. So I do agree with Matt about that. All these quote unquote nerd stats. You can't simulate sports.
So here's my only notes on Aidan Hutchinson. 9.5 sacks last year. 3 were in one game. So almost a third of his sacks came against Washington. PFF had him ranked as the 21st best edge rusher at the end of the season. From what articles I could read, he really came on strong at the end of the year. And I think you have to go over. But if you are going to play Aidan Hutchinson, might as well. Matt, like you said, against the Panthers, that offensive line is a sieve. So if he gets a good matchup against teams that pass in a game that could be a shootout with a weak offensive line, I think he could be a pretty decent week to week. I don't really think this bet is bettable, but it's always good to look at some of these players, research them so you're ready for week 1 of NFL. Quick reminder, guys, use the promo code birthday9, and also early bird pricing is available through Sunday. So if you want to take advantage of full season of football, please take advantage of it ASAP. You can get a full season of Andrew's plays. You can get a full season of Matt's plays. You can get a full season of my plays. It ends on Sunday. So if you're not taking advantage of it, please get in those accounts. Make sure you take advantage of that. All right, we got a best bet coming up a little bit later. A couple of quick topics that we want to get to. So Matt, I'm going to come to you here, and college football talk. You have a DraftKings lineup, and I know not everyone plays college football, but these are important players to look at. It helps us with player props. It helps us with learning more about these teams. And then one thing that we're each going to do is we're each going to give a little bit about our team. Andrew's the Packers, Matt is the Eagles, I am the Colts, and what we think about their season win total. So, Matt, talk to us a little about college football, how you built your DraftKings lineup, and then your team, the Eagles, 11.5 wins. How did you break down that number?
Yeah, so I really like college football DFS, and I think especially early on, the books know and the people who set the prices know as much as we do. So I think there's some value in terms of trying to pick a player, and especially for a 7-game slate. Now, I like them when they're a lot larger because there's more opportunities, but, we don't see a lot of the teams that we see in this slate normally because the books don't like to hang these large, like we don't ever see New Mexico State or UMass in our DFS lineups, but we do this week. So if we can pull it up, I actually have the graphic here for my DraftKings lineup for this week. And look, the one thing that both DraftKings and FanDuel do for DFS is they give you a flex position and they allow you to put quarterbacks in there. So I always, for the best opportunity, try and do 2 quarterbacks if I can certainly do so. So if you, for this week, my 2 quarterbacks, I did Hank Bachmeier, the Boise State transfer from Louisiana Tech, and I did Caleb Williams, the USC guy. I mean, look, USC is going to put up a lot of points. Caleb Williams trying to win the Heisman once again for the second straight time, and I think they're going to try and get him as many touchdown passes as possible. He is the most expensive person on there. So those are the 2 quarterbacks that I used. The 2 running backs, I used USC's running back, Marshawn Lloyd, the South Carolina transfer. He was actually cheaper than Jones, the other running back, and I think they're going to use them both plenty. So it's really taking the opportunity to use the cheaper of the 2 USC running backs. And then I have Star Thomas, the running back from New Mexico State, who is the number 1 running back there. I think that they're going to have some opportunities against UMass, and New Mexico State is a run-based offense. So I like Star Thomas there. He's $5,200. And then at wide receiver, I took 2 number 1s, Sam Wiglas from Ohio. I think he's going to have some opportunities against San Diego State. And Smoke Harris for Louisiana Tech, kind of pairing him off with Hank Bachmeier. And so my other flex, I like the number 1 wide receiver for Vanderbilt, Will Shepherd. He's going to have a really big game, I think. And then the opportunity, the reason why I was able to fit Caleb Williams in this lineup is the Ashlock kid, who is a redshirt freshman for Hawaii. And they talked him up plenty in the practice here. He's the minimum price of $3,000. Now, look, he's going to make or break my lineup. If he does big things, then I'm going to make a lot of money. If he doesn't do anything, then this lineup's going to be the difference. So that's why I'm able to fit some of these stars in there. And if we had the thing, I'll post it on my Twitter account so you can see the graphic for the lineup for DraftKings. With regards to the Eagles here, obviously everybody paints me out to be the homer, but I think the under's the play here, and you can tell by the lean here. The Eagles' schedule is borderline impossible. I mean, they have a stretch where they play at Kansas City, they play Buffalo, they play the 49ers, they play at Dallas, they play at Seattle over a 5-week span. I mean, that's really tough. 3 of those are on the road, and then if they're for some reason not focused afterwards, they get the Giants at home. I think it's a really tough schedule. I think the Eagles are great. I think they're going back to the Super Bowl once again. But with regards to the 11.5, I lean to the under here. I think the Eagles get 11 wins. I think that wins the division. I think that gets them the 1st or 2nd seed in the NFC, and I think they make the Super Bowl once again. But they can be a better team but still be worse record-wise, and I think that's the case.
All right, Matt going under 11.5. You're right. That's got to be one of the toughest stretches of games like that we've seen in a few years, not just this season. That stretch that Philly has is just absolutely brutal. So I'm with you, Matt. They're going to be a great team, but that's a tough schedule to navigate. Andrew, coming to you. You've got your best bet coming up here just a little bit. But we want to talk a couple of CFL futures. Probably last week we could talk CFL futures now that college football and NFL is starting, but there's still value there. And then your Packers. Over or under 7.5 wins. So what do you like in the CFL future wise? And what do you think about the Green Bay Packers on 7.5 wins?
Yeah, and it's fun to talk about the CFL during the summer, and I don't bore people too much that aren't fans of the Canadian game. But once NFL and college starts, I feel like people are done with it. So the last week I'll really mention things, but over the past few years, I've done pretty well giving out plays as far as futures are concerned. Here's the deal. So a lot of times I find myself, there's 2 or 3 top teams in the CFL, and there's that massive drop off. But this is kind of me shopping for value and trying to find that team that could play upset. The Montreal Alouettes are a team that I've had labeled as kind of phony because they've only defeated teams that they should beat. And anytime they've stepped up in class, they haven't been able to get that big win. But when you look at their schedule, against the Eastern Conference, besides the Toronto Argonauts, they've done very well. And here's the fact. there's a crossover game that comes over in the playoffs. There's going to be a West team that crosses over most likely into the East Division because there's an uneven amount of teams for the playoffs. I believe that Montreal can beat every other team in the East and that crossover team besides Toronto. So we're getting them at 8-1 odds right now to win the Grey Cup. We're already locked in. I talked about BC to win the Grey Cup earlier in the season, back at about, I think, June here on Prop It Up. So let's add Montreal Alouettes at 8-1 to win the Grey Cup to our portfolio here and hope that they can play upset, win that Eastern Conference final game in a few months here, and then we go into the Grey Cup with an 8-1 play here on Montreal, and we can do whatever we want with hopefully BC on the other side. But as far as right now in the CFL, that's where I see the value on this Montreal Alouettes team. They're improving, they're getting healthier, and they are a team that can make some dangerous plays. It's all just about their defense, but they are the second best team in their division, I would say. And I feel like they will be the team that could play upset. As far as the Packers, I love how Matt said, I don't want to be a homer because, well, we're all talking about our home picks. And I feel like I am one. If I say anything positive, I do feel like I am one. But here's the fact of the matter. Number one, I love the fact that nobody likes them this year. I don't bring this stuff up very often, but for certain things like win totals and things like that, the popular and the public picks, I love being on the other side. And a lot of people love the under, it seems like, in the Green Bay Packers. But the health to me is a big thing. I mean, this offensive line was one of the top-ranked offensive lines in the league last year, despite so many injuries. Bakhtiari not being out there pretty much for, I think, a third or two-thirds of the season. And you talk about Jordan Love, right? He actually was able to look over somebody's shoulder. He's not just one of these young quarterbacks that's getting rushed into play. And I feel like that's not being talked about enough. Some of these quarterbacks that go straight up out of college and they're starting quarterback in the NFL next year, I do not think it's a positive thing. You know, Packers fans were disappointed when they drafted him because they wanted to get more talent and receivers for Aaron Rodgers. But this could look like a very smart move by the Packers. One thing I saw as well, they have one of the easiest schedules in the league this year against pass rushers. That really bodes well. Number one, the offensive line is already so great, but Jordan Love will have time back there to make plays and create. I love the running back duo. I feel like it's consistent. They've been good. They have that kind of 1-2 punch. And the schedule to start the year off isn't that difficult. Talking about the Bears, who I think Packers could upset week 1, Falcons, Saints, Lions, Raiders. You know, a lot of winnable games there. And I feel like 7.5 is light. So call me whatever you want. I'm sprinkled on the over here in the Packers.
Love it. I saw a quote, Andrew, that said that this offense is just going to be a lot of fun, that they're really going to open it up, and there's just going to be a lot of excitement. So great work from Andrew. We're going to come to him for best bet in a second. Just a couple of UFC props that I think are worth looking at. A couple of overs. If you like, if you're like me and you like the to start round 2, I think there's some really good fights that I think will start round 2. Don't forget this freaking event starts at 5 a.m. Eastern time. It's over in Singapore. So I love the Chidi Njokwani and Michael Olakasechek to start round 2. It's 2 strikers. I think they kind of even each other out. I think that starts round 2. That's a great price. Kazama and Armfield, both of those guys are kind of equal, and there's going to be some wrestling involved. That should be a pretty slow-moving fight. That'll start round 2. Waldo Cortez Acosta and Lucas Bresky, that's going to start round 2 as well. Those guys don't have knockout power. They're not submission guys. So there's 3 UFC fights that to start round 2. And then my underdog, who I've been saying all week, Parker Porter, is going to beat Junior Tafa. Junior Tafa is terrible at wrestling. Parker Porter can take him to the ground. Parker Porter got knocked out by Junior Tafa's older brother. And there's no way Parker Porter wants to be known as the guy that got knocked out by 2 brothers. He's going to stay out of the way of Tafa's big right hand and wrestle. So those are some UFC thoughts. I have the Colts at 6.5 wins, and I can make the statement. I can make these 2 statements about the Colts, and both are true. Okay, Richardson, he's mobile, gives the team athleticism at quarterback. They haven't had that. Going to be exciting and effective. The division isn't great. The offensive line underachieved. They're going to play better this year. The interior, the defense is great. Pittman and Alec Pierce seem to have great chemistry with Richardson. New head coach, jolt of energy, effective and innovative offensive schemes. So that could be true. It could. This next statement could also be true. Well, You have a rookie head coach with a rookie quarterback. The quarterback has accuracy issues. The star running back wants out of town. The secondary is one of the worst in the league. Below average wide receiving core. Offensive line was injured last year, and winning is not the top priority. I don't know which one it's going to be. Here's what I hate about the Colts schedule is they're probably not going to be very good. And then, gosh dang it, they're going to win their last 3 games. They play at Atlanta, home to the Raiders, and home to the Texans. We literally could be facing 3 teams that are tanking for an elite draft spot. And the Colts are going to win 2 of those probably. I think they win 5-6 games. I think it's under. The problem is they have a lot of games that are going to be really, really close. They face Carolina, Houston, and Tennessee. Those games are going to be close in the division. So the Colts, I lean to the under a little bit because I think Richardson's accuracy is just going to be too much of a detriment to overcome. In their secondary, you're going to be able to pass all over this Colts team. So week 1, Trevor Lawrence passing yards. Take a look at the over on that one. So I'm going a little bit under on the Colts. Amazing. Andrew's the only one that likes his team to go over the win total. So, all right, guys, we're going to get to our best bet. Please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe and leave us a comment if you like our plays, dislike our plays. Grab Matt Joseph's college football plays at sportsmemo.com. Week 0 is upon us. All my plays can be found at WagerTalk.com. Andrew, hit us with the best bet. We're looking at UFC, right?
Yes, we are, Andy. And this is one of those plays. You always hate saying this, but I think it's going to go exactly as people think it will go. Max Holloway versus Korean Zombie. The output that Holloway has will be too much for Korean Zombie. Look, he gets his nickname for a reason. He's as durable as it comes, but it comes a time when you take so many shots that you're going to go down. That's what happened to him in his last fight. He took 102 strikes to the head, and he went down TKO in the 4th round, albeit against, the pound for pound champ in the UFC right now. But when you look at Holloway coming off a fight where he outstruck his opponent 147-76, he averages more than 7 significant strikes per minute. To me, this is going to be one of those type of fights where Korean Zombie will not be able to handle, I think, the consistency that Max Holloway throws at him. And at -120, to see Max Holloway win by TKO, or KO, I feel like that is the best bet in the main event this Saturday in the UFC. This is one of those fights where, as durable as Korean Zombie is, I don't think it even gets past the 3rd round. The output will be far too much. And also the fact that Korean Zombie hasn't fought in 17 months, I think hurts him even more. You got to stay active in the UFC, especially when you're coming back to fight a guy like Max. So I'll take Max Holloway to win this Saturday in the UFC inside the distance at -120.
There you go. That is the prop it up best bet. Guys, if you like the betting comment, leave us a like, and don't forget to stay tuned for more betting content. Don't forget to hit up Wager Talk today at 12 Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Good luck on all your bets. We will see everyone next week on Prop It Up.